So today's topic is Origin Protocol, the future of commerce. And we have Matthew, Lou, and KU with us. So Matthew and Kay, can you introduce yourself?
Sure. First off, just want to say it's a pleasure to be on the show. My name is Matthew Liu. I'm one of the co-founders of Origin Protocol. We've been working really hard at Origin to enable what we call truly peer-to-peer commerce. Basically, how do we allow buyers and sellers to meet each other, communicate with each other, and transact directly on the blockchain without some of these what we call centralized intermediaries, the companies like Uber or Airbnb or Craigslist that kind of sit in the middle and take fees from all the different buyers and sellers on each side.
Cool. Hey guys, hi Michelle. Again, thanks for having us here. So my name is Kay. I lead finance operations here at Origin Protocol. So I've joined the team in 2018 of last year in July, and it's been an absolute pleasure being part of such a great team here. So thanks.
I always ask for stories because I think they are important. So what is your story for both of you?
Matt, would you like to start?
Yeah, so I've been working in technology startups for basically my entire career. I started out as one of the earliest product managers at YouTube, roughly around employee 25 or so, and so have been working with disruptive technologies for a while now. First at YouTube, and then later on we were acquired by Google. I was also VP of product management at two other startups that were eventually acquired before going on the entrepreneurial journey myself. And I think what really motivates me to do what I'm doing right now is that I really want to create something meaningful and impactful for the world. And we have this rare opportunity right now at Origin where there's this disruptive technology, blockchain technology, that is really well positioned to change the way that people interact with each other. And specifically with what we're doing, we're just really excited that we can connect buyers and sellers, like we were saying before, and allow them to basically engage in free commerce, right? Basically play by their own rules, be able to have decentralized commerce, be able to buy and sell with whoever they want, wherever they want, using cryptocurrencies, this brand new technology that's permissionless, that's borderless, that's near instant, that allows buyers and sellers to basically pay each other right away.
Cool. My story is quite different. So, I come from a traditional sort of business, financial sort of accounting consulting background. I spent my 4 years at one of the big four companies. A lot of clients that I dealt with were financial institutions. And so the word crypto, blockchain came constantly. And so I think I was, finding myself trying to get educated in this subject matter, and also trying to meet people, network with the influencers in this community. And so that's when I met one of the our other co-founder, Josh Fraser, in my hometown in home city, Toronto. So ever since then, I've been very lucky to be part of a team where our mission again is to enable true peer-to-peer commerce. And I think that really resonated well with me, given what blockchain really is about. It's really to connect peer-to-peers, getting rid of the intermediaries. So yeah.
Awesome. So my next question is really about Origin Protocol. I did do some homework. I know, and I'm really excited because I used to work at PayPal and eBay, and some of the earlier companies like Cisco. Cisco regarding the protocol type, of course, and then eBay and PayPal regarding commerce. So I'm super excited about this. So can you tell us a little about the Origin Protocol, or more? I want to know what it is, how does it work, what are some of the product features that are on there that you're excited about?
Yeah, absolutely. So the way we think of Origin is we think of this as actually a platform, right? And so the platform we're building, we would like to enable many different types of decentralized applications that serve marketplaces. So if we're successful 10 years from now, we imagine that the new version of Uber or the new version of Etsy or even a Shopify or Amazon, any types of these existing marketplaces today can now exist on the blockchain in a slightly different flavor. And why is this important? Why is this meaningful? Well, there's a couple things that we want to accomplish, right? Like these are the 4 whys of what we do, what we're doing. And so the first one is, which is with decentralized marketplaces, you can actually connect buyers and sellers directly. And when you do that, you cut out the middleman. And when you cut out the middleman, you're able to actually reduce the fees that buyers and sellers have to pay. So today, let's say on an Airbnb, Airbnb will take a cut on both sides from both the home rental person and also the person renting the home. And let's say it's anywhere from like 8% upwards of 16%. Uber might take 25% more of the driver's take. It varies from there. So for example, wag.com, which is a dog sitting platform, they take something like 40%, right? And so we think that's very egregious. Those fees need to come down. If not to zero, they need to come down much closer to zero. And so that's one thing that motivates us at Origin. Like, how do we actually allow people to pay less while still engaging in the same form of business? There's another financial reason as well. So one of the most fascinating things about all these crypto economic platforms is that the people participating in the platforms get a stake of the platform, right?
Okay.
So again, look at something like Lyft, right? Lyft just IPO'd. The venture capitalists, the founders, early employees, they all made a ton of money. But it was only right before the IPO that Lyft thought to itself, hey, what about the drivers? What about the people that helped create the true value in the network? Do we let them participate, right? And we think that that's like a backwards model. You should actually incentivize people that are actually creating value on your platform from day one. And so Origin, the platform is already built so that the people contributing to the platform, early buyers and sellers, people that are referring their friends to the platform, they're already able to earn Origin tokens today. So as part of the platform, we have the Origin Rewards program, and this lets the early stakeholders get a meaningful part of the network. So those are 2 of the 4 reasons. These 2 reasons center around financial incentives. And then the next 2 reasons are around access to goods and services, right? And so reason number 3 is in today's world, a lot of these marketplace businesses, they face a lot of government regulation, whether it's Uber being banned in certain cities or Airbnb being banned in certain cities. There's censorship, so there's stories of Etsy banning certain sellers and basically taking over control of their businesses. And we want to actually give power back to the individual buyers and sellers, right? And so our decentralized platform will enable free commerce, so will allow for free speech. It will be censorship resistant, and just allow people to basically choose how they want to behave when buying and selling. And the last reason, it's the most long-term, and it's also the most ambitious. So here in America, we're pretty spoiled, right? We have a stable US dollar. We have pretty reliable banking systems, even though we complain about it.
Yep.
The rest of the world, that's not necessarily true. About a third of the world is actually unbanked right now. They don't have good checking accounts. They don't have credit cards. They don't have access to PayPal. And they're basically hacking their way into financial systems, whether it's barter or using fiat currency that is very unstable. Let's say in Venezuela, it's like hyperinflationary, or they're finding other ways to basically have a medium of exchange. But in this new world of cryptocurrencies and marketplaces that can be powered by cryptocurrencies, we believe that we can reach a whole swath of new users. These new users can leapfrog traditional banking systems, and this basically allows them to participate, right? These unbanked individuals have cell phones, they have connection to the internet, and so we believe we can actually open new ways of business for them. So that's like a very high level what the platform is and what it why we're doing it. In terms of feature set, what we're trying to do is basically create marketplace functionality on top of the blockchain. So how do you actually allow users to create their own identities, but also control their identities?
Yep.
Rather than something like a Google or Facebook controlling user data, let users control their own data. How do you let users communicate with one another? So how do they chat? How do they message each other? But in secure, encrypted ways, as opposed to existing channels. And then how do you allow them to transact with another? So how do you create escrow systems and arbitration systems and transactional flows that live on the blockchain rather than are held by these companies like eBay or Amazon? And so there's a full, feature set that we're building. We have a mobile application that you can download that allows you to check out, what people are listing to sell on Origin. You can create your own identity. You can message people. We're, just in the early innings here, but the goal is let's bring this world of existing commerce onto the blockchain and make it more open, more free, more permissionless for everyone in the world to use.
Awesome. So I was talking to a couple of friends yesterday, and then I think they're looking for an e-commerce solution, and I sent the creator of Origin Protocol to them. They are developers, and I was just wondering, what is the flow? Like, if I'm interested in integrating having e-commerce on the blockchain, what do I do? Do I go to, it sounds really easy on the website, so can you kind of go over with me how that works?
Yeah, so there are a couple of ways that you can start interacting with Origin today.
Okay.
And then there are a couple other ways that we anticipate launching in the rest of this year. Today, as a user, as a buyer or seller, you can actually play around with our application. And so that's basically just using a marketplace application.
Mm-hmm.
You can check it out by going to dapp.originprotocol.com. That's dapp.originprotocol.com.
Uh-huh.
And that will actually launch the application that you can play with. And so you can actually use cryptocurrency to buy or sell goods and services, whether it's a t-shirt or a tutoring session or a home rental. We're already seeing some of those listings. And so
Awesome.
that's the first way that you can interact with us as just a basic user, right?
Yep.
Now, let's say you're a person that wants to create your own marketplace.
Yep.
The first product we have in that area is what we call our Origin Marketplace Creator. And so that allows you to basically create a version of our marketplace, but it can be branded whatever you want. You can add your own logo, you can add your own color themes, you can host on your own domain. And then this is a cryptocurrency powered marketplace that you control, right? And so that's our marketplace creator. You can check that out at originprotocol.com/creator. And so we have, a handful of companies that have already launched their own marketplaces. We have a couple of our own internal marketplaces that we've launched using this tool. One that specializes in fine art, so paintings and other art pieces. Another that's around merchandise. These are kind of like some of the early verticals we're experimenting with.
Awesome. So I have actually make a line of t-shirt called Crazy Crypto Asians that I sell. So do you mean that I can actually put those t-shirts on there? It's on Amazon.
Yeah, you can totally do that today. Yeah.
Awesome. So how long does it take to integrate the protocol?
Yeah, so today, if you're using Marketplace Creator, you can get a marketplace running probably in a matter of minutes. It depends, how much you want to spend customizing it.
Okay.
But then you're going to have to spend more time actually seeding the inventory, right? So you're going to want to find sellers, to create listings, to actually create a marketplace versus just an empty home. The next phase is a little bit more complicated, and that's not yet launched yet, but that's the area that we're most excited about, which is we're going to release a set of developer tools, so developer APIs that are targeted at software engineers. And these are going to allow for much more powerful applications, much more complex and flexible applications, where 6 months from now or a year from now, developers can basically, within their own imagination, create all different types of apps that are powered on top of Origin.
Yep.
So that process will take a little bit longer, right? So first we have to release these developer libraries, and they're being worked on right now. And then when developers integrate with them, that might be anywhere from a day integration process to multiple months, depending on how complex those applications are.
Awesome. So Kay and Matthew, what is your personal vision for the company?
Yeah, so I can speak for my honor. Yeah, I think my particular vision for the company is, as Matt has mentioned, it's really to enable true peer-to-peer commerce.
Okay.
For not just the engineers or our specific target or audience. It's really for the mass public. So the average users out there who have access to Origin, we really want to enable truly peer-to-peer commerce for those individuals. And I think this is sort of the reason why I personally wanted to be part of this company. And is I really saw, it comes down to what is blockchain about and what is sort of the sole purpose of this new technology for everyone. It's really, in my mind, in my humble opinion, is to get rid of intermediaries and to really allow, a connection between peer to peer. And I thought that, the vision we have really aligns well with the core purpose of this technology.
Yeah.
Matt?
Yeah, I think it's all about empowering individuals to be able to do business where they otherwise would not have been able to in the past. And so let's make it so that these buyers and sellers can be their own like micro entrepreneurs. They don't have to be as dependent on the existing platforms. They don't have to pay these taxes to the existing platforms that we mentioned previously, whether it's like an Airbnb or like a Didi or a Grab Taxi or, a Let Go and OfferUp, right? Let's empower these individuals. And I think what really, really excites me actually is not just replicating existing use cases and making them better, but also this world of unknown possibilities, right? With all the disruptive technologies we've seen in the past, whether it's mobile coming online or social networking and social apps, or even just the internet itself, a lot of the value that was created was stuff that the founders of these protocols couldn't even really predict, right? And it was just like, hey, we know that we're onto something. We're going to build the early parts of it, and we're going to build some of the early use cases, and we're going to imagine these early use cases. But 5 years, 10 years, 20 years down the line, look at the amazing applications that are built that even the creators of the platform can't really imagine, right? And so, when Steve Jobs created the iOS platform, he couldn't have imagined the millions and millions of different types of mobile apps that make people's lives easier, right?
Yeah.
He couldn't have even imagined Uber, right? That just wasn't a concept that existed at that time.
Yeah, Uber was really helpful. There was one time where I was like trying to get taxi in San Francisco, and it just took forever, like an hour later.
Right.
Yeah.
And the early creators of the internet, or the email SMPT, SMPT protocol, or the creators of JavaScript, HTML, they couldn't have imagined that 20 years later there are all these powerful applications that touch people's lives all over the world. Like billions of people are basically running their lives off these platforms. And so I think that unknown possibility really excites me. It motivates me to just work really hard and try to build something that can be really, really useful and generationally impactful.
I wanted to ask about your prediction of, not just your vision, but with blockchain in the future. Like, what do you think, and just really along this line, what do you think would be the most impactful innovation?
I think, most of the predictions that we have today are going to be like directionally correct, but not necessarily super specific.
Yeah.
So I think blockchain is a technology that's here to stay. I think that where blockchain technology is going to be the most interesting is when you're dealing with large networks of people, right?
Yeah.
So in our case, it's networks of buyers and sellers all over the world, right? I think there might be pretty interesting use cases for other consumer apps in blockchain, whether it's more social networking or communication oriented. And there's also a lot of potential promise in these I guess like networks where there needs to be a lot of data sharing amongst enterprises. I'm a little bit less excited when the networks themselves are smaller. So if it's just like 3 banking conglomerates data, that's not that interesting to me.
Yeah.
Right? You don't need a blockchain to solve that. It becomes more interesting when you have tens of thousands of supply chain participants, manufacturers, warehouses, whatever. And it becomes even more interesting to me when you're talking about millions or hundreds of millions of users that interact with each other. So I think the number of people in the system is directly related to how useful and interesting blockchain technology is. In regards to other predictions I have, I do think that a lot of people got really excited about the promise of blockchain in 2007 17 and 18 and expected instantaneous results.
Mhm.
And that's not really how technology evolves and is adopted, right? Even the most exponential technologies, they look pretty modest to begin. And at exponential growth rates in the early days, it's still pretty kind of like pitiful and small what adoption is. I think we're seeing that in blockchain today, right? So a lot of the underlying infrastructure is still pretty nascent and immature. We're building on top of Ethereum, and there are a lot of challenges. So there are scaling challenges. It's expensive. It's slow. And there's a lot of improvements on the core infrastructure. And then at the middleware level and the application level, there's a lot of stuff we have to overcome, right? So user frictions and usability issues. People just aren't that familiar with cryptocurrencies or these concepts that we're trying to introduce, such as users owning their own identities or users owning their own funds without, a bank in the middle of it, right? So the adoption is going to probably be still relatively low in the next 6 months or so, but I'm much more excited about 12, 18, 24 months from now, and I think it will actually become exponential. And once it hits that inflection point, it's going to be crazy, right? So I think later part of 2020 and beyond, we're going to see blockchain technology be very, very pervasive and start disrupting many different types of industries and applications, but it will take a little bit of time. So a good thing for us is we're patient, we're focused on the long term, and we're committed to building something that's going to actually have a lot of impact, not only today, but years from now.
Awesome. Kay, do you have any insights?
Yeah, I think for me, just kind of obviously echoing what Matt has said here. I think in terms of predictions, I think any key projects or key influencers in this industry who spend time and effort into educating the users. I think building great tech is one thing, but not, but also understanding and knowing what users need and want is another. And I think projects that spend the effort to focus on that and to really integrate that into the product itself, I think would be key. And that's what we aim to do here at Origin is, we host various meetups, virtual or in-person meetups where we, demo our DApp to users around the world. And we're really strong believers in sort of, communicating, connecting with our community, but also delivering important, useful information about crypto, about our DApp, and so on.
Awesome. And I wanted to move into a little bit about your coin and cryptocurrency, and also your tokenomics. So I guess for my listeners, a lot of people don't really know what cryptocurrency is. So I always wanted to begin with very fundamental questions and then kind of move along. So I guess the very basic question is, why do we need cryptocurrency?
Yeah.
And how does that work on your platform?
Yeah, so I'll go back to one of the earlier points I stated, which is that in the United States, right, which is the wealthiest country in the world currently, highest GDP, the US dollar is the reserve currency of the world. And as much as we complain about Wall Street, as the 99%, like, Wall Street and also commercial banks do pretty good job, relatively speaking, when you compare it to other countries in ensuring that the U.S. economy is still humming and people are able to, purchase goods and get credit and have savings accounts, checking accounts, etc. And so the cryptocurrencies are ironically less obvious of a next step to some of our listeners in the United States as they are to people across the world. And so that's kind of like the first thing that I ask like all our listeners today to keep in mind, that you are actually not the same as the other 7 billion people in the world, right? Now let's take kind of like a zoomed out lens and examine like what are some of the properties of cryptocurrency. So number one, cryptocurrency is permissionless, and that means that anyone in the global economy can start participating. So we're built on Ethereum. And this means that anyone in the world that is interested in participating in the Ethereum ecosystem, they pretty much can, as long as they have an internet connection and they're properly motivated. So it's permissionless, it's global by nature. It's also relatively fast when you're talking about international money transfers. So on Ethereum, you send money from one wallet to another. Let's say I'm sending to someone in China. Maybe that takes, 5 seconds, 30 seconds. At most, it takes a couple minutes at today's like network times. That's much faster than international money transfers today. If I was to try to actually like send a wire, it routes through many different systems, and it might take a couple days for my money to land in China. And so those are some of the pretty interesting properties of cryptocurrencies. Cryptocurrencies are still, not widely adopted yet, but if they are, they stand the possibility of being used in all different types of daily commerce, whether it's between businesses at very large amounts or individuals at smaller amounts. Cryptocurrencies are also, highly divisible. They can be reduced to small units of currency. And there's a particular type of cryptocurrency called stablecoins that are designed to basically mimic and peg their prices to existing fiat currencies, right? And so there are multiple cryptocurrencies such as Make or Die or TrueUSD or USDC that are basically tied to the value of what a US dollar is, right? And so that actually makes it even more usable as a payment product and medium of exchange product between individuals. So that's kind of like a high level of why cryptocurrencies are interesting, novel, and different from existing systems. Now, if we go even in more detail, we talk about some of the monetary systems of other countries, right? So we mentioned Venezuela earlier, but Argentina is a good example. There's countries all over Africa, some in Southeast Asia that also have these very volatile banking systems and currency systems where, today I might be paid, the equivalent of $10, and tomorrow that might be only worth like $8, right? And so having cryptocurrencies themselves are quite volatile today, but at least they're driven by like market forces, and there are special cryptocurrencies, these stablecoins I mentioned, that are designed to be stable, and they, in the future, I believe, will become a better store of value as well as a better medium of exchange than existing fiat currencies all over the world.
So does Origin Protocol has a cryptocurrency?
Yeah, so we have our own cryptocurrency. It's a cryptocurrency based off of the Ethereum network. It's called Origin Token. The symbol is OGN.
OGN. Yeah.
It's currently not, trading on any exchanges, as we're still in, the early phases of our platform. We're in beta right now and testing out
Okay, great.
the cryptocurrency and our broader platform. But we do have a cryptocurrency that will be widely distributed in the next, in the coming future.
Okay, awesome. Okay, and then what's the difference between centralized versus decentralized marketplaces? I know we mentioned a little bit about it, So, I mean, my main question is, why do we need decentralized marketplaces when we have centralized marketplaces already, where we can go to Amazon or eBay to buy something, or even Uber? What is the significance of decentralization?
Yeah, I think kind of going back to the earlier of the whys that Matt has mentioned about that Origin focuses on. And so I think the biggest thing would be, usually we find in centralized platforms or businesses, we see this sort of monopolistic middleman, the centralized sort of authority who kind of makes a decision, also controls the data, or controls the finances that sort of control or run the community or the ecosystem. So that would be sort of the main difference. And also with decentralization comes power distribution or dissemination to the participants in the ecosystem as well, right? So it's not just one authority or single person controlling or making decisions on behalf of the community or the network. It's everyone involved and everyone who has participated to the growth of that network.
Yeah. So imagine a case, you mentioned Uber, right? So imagine a case where all the Uber drivers and all the Uber riders all had a small piece of the Uber network, right? And so when they ride, when they transact with each other, they're adding value to Uber's network. But also, as the Uber network becomes more valuable, these people are rewarded in kind, right? And so that's like one big fundamental difference if we actually talk about decentralization paired with cryptocurrency. And then, just to re-summarize again, there's, 4 things that we're really trying to achieve here that we believe decentralized marketplaces accomplish. The first one is reducing fees.
Mm-hmm.
The second one is, giving a stake to all the participants. The third one is reducing censorship and promoting free and open commerce. And the fourth one is giving access to goods and services to markets that are currently not addressed by these centralized players, right? So a lot of the unbanked or potentially third world countries.
Mm-hmm.
So these are some of the advantages that we believe exist when you have a plethora of decentralized marketplaces versus just a few centralized monopolistic marketplaces.
Yeah, it's been really interesting. I was actually at the World Bank IMF last week, and we're talking about using money to cooperate globally. And I was also at a panel on the future of money, just listening, with Circle there, as well as Chase. And then later on that night, I was at a meetup with the African Union, talking about how to use a virtual currency for all of Africa. So I guess my question is really, how do you guys reach places where it hasn't been served yet? How do you reach out to these countries? And when will you think will be mass adoption?
Yeah, that's a great question, and it's a huge challenge. First, I'll caveat by saying we don't have all the answers yet today,
Yeah.
but we're certainly committed to figuring it out. So with all types of disruptive technologies, it's really important to find your initial beachhead, right? Your initial total. What are the early niches of users that actually will adopt this technology? Now, specifically when we're talking about unserved areas, whether it's in South America or Africa, that becomes much more challenging, right? Because many of the people that are building the technologies are actually not on the ground. So we're taking early efforts today to talk with folks that are in region. Really, it's about customer development and understanding where are the actual pain points that people are facing in these regions. So a lot of it is conducting interviews, running studies, and really trying to put ourselves as entrepreneurs and engineers and builders into the shoes of these future customers. I don't entirely know exactly what will happen in the next 12 months or 3 years and how we actually break into these certain regions. But I think that the perspective that needs to be taken is like, how do you actually understand user pains and not just come up with top level business models or strategies. It has to be really with bottoms up, right? How do you actually help that first customer, then that second customer, and then it becomes 10 customers and then 100 customers from the ground up, and really understand the nuances of what challenges they face and how does our technology and the specific features of our platform address that, and what else do we need to build to continue to improve on that. So it needs to be a very iterative process. It needs to be like a ear to the ground process. It needs to be very open dialogue. It needs to be like a very empathetic process, right? It needs to be driven by user needs and pains, not just like high level abstractions and theories and economic theories.
Yeah, I agree with you. I'm looking forward to that. I think that's going to be really exciting. I think, even in our African talk, we were talking a lot about education, because I think a lot of the government still doesn't really know what blockchain is. And then there were a lot of delegates from Africa there. And, I think a lot of people are still discovering the technology and still trying to understand, what decentralization means. So I think open discussion, especially at the beginning, is going to be really important.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, it's not a book that's been finished writing, right? Like, the technology is constantly changing and evolving and improving. We're still very much in the early days, and there's a lot of advancement that needs to happen on the technical level as well as the customer acquisition level. So it needs to be an ongoing conversation. It needs to be an open conversation. It needs to be a conversation that begin today or has already begun versus is procrastinated on, until, the technologist feels ready.
Yeah, yeah. And then I'm really interested in identity, and I know that on your platform, you guys have a feature that manages identity. So, what are your thoughts on identity in terms of how it relates to your platform? And what do you think about the future of identity?
Yeah. So there's this term that's been thrown around a lot. It's called self-sovereign identity. And
Mm-hmm.
the idea is that the person that owns that identity, the actual individual, should be the one that controls it, right? And so this is in contrast with existing widely adopted identity systems. So today's widely adopted identity systems are Facebook and Google, right? And you use these systems to log into other applications. You give your data to these networks, and there are others besides Facebook and Google. I'm using those as examples, and they own your data, right? And they're able to use your data and monetize you as a user through advertising or other business models. And so this new perspective, this self-sovereign identity, suggests that users should still be able to identify themselves, right? They should still be able to say, hey, I'm Matt Liu, or this is KU, this is, where I live, or
Mm-hmm.
I can actually even use the existing identity systems to help validate who I am, right? Like I actually own an email address and I have a phone number that's verified, and I can verify that I own this specific Facebook profile or this Twitter profile. But I control my own data, right? And so I can take this data and choose who I share it with, when I share it with them, and for what purpose. I should also be able to pull this data back or delete it if I want to. And so the way that Origin works with identity is we allow people to choose how they want to verify themselves, right? So you can be totally anonymous, and you can just be a user of the platform that's identified by your Ethereum wallet. No one knows anything about you. That's one way to do it. Or you can say, again, hey, I want to actually let other users, buyers and sellers, know that I'm a real person and that I'm reputable and dependable. And so as part of my identity, I'm going to attach one of my profiles, right? Let's say I'm renting houses. I can say, hey, here's what my profile is on Airbnb. I can prove that I have ownership of that Airbnb profile. And so then the other side can say, oh yeah, it looks like Matt actually has been an Airbnb host before, and he's likely to be more reputable as a person to do business with than someone that has not done that identity verification. But it's my choice, right? And I don't have to do that. And if I choose to do that, I still own that wallet. I still own that data. And then that identity can plug into the Origin ecosystem so that I can interact with other people, but it's not data that Origin owns. And so that's the key difference. So there's more privacy, there's more optionality, there's much more user control. And that's where we end up with this concept that we and others call self-sovereign identity.
Awesome. And I also see that there's arbitration built into your system. Of course, coming from PayPal and eBay, dispute resolution is very important. So I'm just wondering, how does that work on your platform? If there are disputes, who is actually arbitrating, and why is it important?
Yeah. So arbitration is a really interesting problem. The reason it's important is, when you're dealing with people on the internet, some of those people are not going to be as honest and forthcoming as you are. And so the way transactions work on Origin is, let's say I'm a seller. So I'll list my iPhone that I'm going to sell to you, right? And so I've created this listing. Now you, Michelle, say, hey, I want to buy this iPhone, right? And so you can make an offer to purchase this iPhone. What happens at this point is we're using the power of the Ethereum blockchain, right? These Ethereum smart contracts to create this transaction. But the transaction actually takes money from your wallet, right? And you can pay in either Ether, which is the native currency of Ethereum, or we're also supporting DAI, which is one of the stable coins I mentioned, so the equivalent of a US dollar.
Yeah.
Let's say you decide to pay with DAI and you say, I want to pay $500 USD for this iPhone. Well, then you can actually enter into this transaction with me, and you will deposit $500 worth of DAI or Ether.
Okay.
But the smart contract holds that in escrow. So as a seller, I actually don't get that money yet. But I can see that that money has been put up for escrow and that you're a serious buyer, you're a real buyer. At this point, you've probably already seen, my reputation as a seller and my identity that I've chosen to share with you. I can see that you've put the money up and also see your identity, any ratings or reviews that you have. And then I can choose to accept the offer, right? And if I accept the offer, I'll send you the phone. You'll be able to release funds and then I'll get paid. Now, let's say I don't send you the phone and you're like, what's going on? The seller has accepted the offer, we expect to get the phone, but I haven't sent the phone. Well, your money is still in escrow. So while it's in escrow, you can then actually file an arbitration claim. And if you file an arbitration claim, that freezes the funds until an arbitrator is able to review the transaction details. And so the arbitrator will then be able to look and see that, here's what my listing looked like at the time of transaction. You've put the money up. Any type of messaging that we've done, we can reveal to the arbitrator, and then the arbitrator can look at any other supporting documents, whether it's like picture uploads or any other types of shipping updates, tracking numbers, etc., to help determine what's going on. And so the arbitrator can then make a judgment and decide that they rule in favor of you, in which case the funds are returned back to you from escrow, or that they rule in favor of me as a seller, in which case the funds are released just like they would be in a normal transaction. So that's the high-level construct of how arbitration works. Since we're still in the very early days, right now, the arbitrators are basically Origin employees, and so we're actually reviewing any arbitration cases that come up. Believe it or not, we're actually quite surprised about this. Like, the number of actual arbitration cases we've seen is like extremely, extremely low today, and I expect this will change over time as our platform gets more and more popular. We haven't really had any cases of malicious behaviors or scamming buyers and sellers or anything that so we're a little bit surprised, but the system does have arbitration baked in, so we're prepared when let's say the platform starts really taking off and we get a deluge of arbitration cases.
That's awesome. I'm sure there will be a lot more.
Yeah.
Sorry. I've seen a lot of that before. So where can we learn more about Origin Protocol?
Yeah, so obviously, please, everyone listening, please, come visit our website, originprotocol.com. We also have a very active Telegram channel, as well as our Discord, our GitHub. It's, everything. We are an open source project, right? So that transparency and the level of communication is entirely what we value as a company. So yeah, please visit our social channels.
Yeah.
What is your web address again?
So it's originprotocol.com. So ORIGINPROTOCOL.com. And if you actually want to use our application, it's at dap.originprotocol.com. So DAPP.originprotocol.com.
How about, I love Telegram. So what is your Telegram address? It's like t.me something.
Yeah, it's just t.me/originprotocol.
Awesome. And then lastly, what is one piece of wisdom that you wanted to share with the community? I guess for both of you. Each.
One piece of wisdom.
Yes.
I think it all comes down to collaboration. So, not just within the team, within a project, but amongst different types of projects out there in this ecosystem. I think there's a huge value that we can create collectively together, right? Because at the end of the day, we're all here to support this new technology called blockchain. And we're all here to serve the needs of the end users, right? And I think that sometimes we often it's easy for us to forget that and kind of feel like we're, almost in a competition with, different projects. But I think we all just need to kind of remind ourselves that's not true. We're all in this together, and that's really how we can, get to the end goal, which is to really add value to the end users.
Awesome. How about you, Matthew?
I think my advice It depends on who it's directed at. So for actual end users, I would say start playing around with the technology, not only what we've built at Origin, but other types of blockchain applications or decentralized technologies. This is going to be as disruptive as the first wave of the internet. So imagine if you were an early user of email, or you were an early creator of the first web pages, right? And this is kind of the time right now.
I'm just kidding.
Yeah, and so like being an early adopter has its advantages. You know, it's always great to learn new skills and learn new technologies, but this new wave of technologies also has incentive systems built in to reward early adopters. And so be an early adopter, be curious, start playing around with things, you know, earn Origin tokens on the Origin platform, but also go and earn rewards on other platforms that you can participate in. You know, one of these might actually take off and you can be one of the, you know, early users of something that, you know, really changes the world, and also potentially makes you, you know, financially well off. So that's what I would say to end users. To people that are building in the space, whether you're, you know, a developer or you're an entrepreneur, or someone in business development, I think the main piece of wisdom is let's all just, you know, have you know, very deep interactions with users. It all comes down to whether or not we're solving problems. And I think one of the early mistakes of many of the people in our industry is that we kind of believed all the hype before we actually built anything useful. And so let's do less conferences, let's do less, you know, kind of just like high level vision type stuff, and talk to each other about how great our technology is and how it's going to change the world. And let's actually, you know, open the doors, get out on the streets and talk to users and actually change the world one user at a time. And so it's going to require that type of discipline. It's going to require that type of grit and determination, that type of intellectual curiosity, that iterative learning and constant development to actually build something useful that is going to fulfill the vision that we all talk about. So basically get out of the office and talk to customers and ship code, right? Don't just pontificate about your project or your technology or how awesome blockchain is.
Those are great advice. I just want to thank you both for being here.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thanks, Michelle.
Okay, bye.
Okay, take care.
Take care. Bye.